namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jaya mudiraye nashta prayeshvabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So we're reading now today Śrīmad Bhagavatam Mahapuranam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, Ideal Family Life, text number 3 and 4. śṛṇvan bhagavatāḥ abhīkṣṇam avatāra-kathāmṛtam śraddadhāno yathā-kālam upaśānta-janāvṛtaḥ sat-saṅgāt chanakaiḥ saṅgam ātma-ja-ādiṣu vimuñcen mucyamāneṣu svayaṁ svapna-vat utthitaḥ śṛṇvan bhagavato bhīkṣṇam śṛṇvan bhagavato bhīkṣṇam avatāra-kathāmṛtam avatāra-kathāmṛtam śraddadhāno yathā-kālam śraddadhāno yathā-kālam upaśānta-janāvṛtaḥ upaśānta-janāvṛtaḥ śṛṇvan bhagavato bhīkṣṇam avatāra-kathāmṛtam śraddadhāno yathā-kālam upaśānta-janāvṛtaḥ śṛṇvan, hearing, bhagavatāḥ, of the Lord, abhīkṣṇam, always, avatāra, of the incarnations, kathā, narrations, amṛtam, the nectar, śraddadhāno, being very faithful in hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yathā-kālam, according to the time. Generally, a grihastha can find time in the evening or in the afternoon, if he is lucky. Upaśānta, completely relieved of material activities. Jana, by persons. Avritaha, being surrounded. sat-saṅgāt, from such good association. Chanakaiḥ, gradually. Saṅgam, association. Ātma, in the body. Jaya, wife. ātma-jāyātmajādiṣu, as well as in children. Vimuñcen, one should get free from attachment for such association. Vimucyamāneṣu, being severed from him. Svayaṁ, personally. Svapnavad, like a dream. Utthitaḥ, awakened. I'll read second verse also. Sat-saṅgāma chanakaiḥ saṅgam ātma-jāyātmajādiṣu vimuñcen vimucyamāneṣu svayaṁ svapna-vat utthitaḥ. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. A grihasta must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and His incarnations, as these activities are described in Śrīmad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus, one should gradually become detached from the affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement has been established to give grihastas all over the world an opportunity to hear Śrīmad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita specifically. The process, as described in many ways, is one of hearing and chanting śṛṇvatam svakathah Krishna punya śravana kirtanaha. Everyone, especially the grihastas, who are mudhadi, ignorant about the goal of life, should be given opportunities to hear about Krishna. Simply by hearing, by attending lectures in different centers of the Krishna consciousness movement, the topics of Krishna from Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhagavatam are discussed. They will be purified of their sinful inclination for constant indulgence in illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling, which have all become prominent in the modern days. Thus, they can be raised to the status of light. Punya Śravana Kirtanaha. Simply by joining the Kirtana, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, one must be purified, especially if he also takes prasadam. And this is all going on in the Krishna consciousness movement. Another specific description here is śṛṇvan bhagavato abhīkṣṇam avatāra-kathāmṛtam. It is not that because one has once finished Bhagavad Gita, he should not hear it again. The word abhīkṣṇam is very important. We should hear again and again and again. There is no question of stopping. Even if one has read these topics many times, he should go on reading again and again, because Bhagavat kathā, the words spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna's devotees about Krishna, are amṛtam, nectar. The more one drinks this amṛtam, the more he advances in his eternal life. The human form of life is meant for liberation, but unfortunately, due to the influence of Kali Yuga, every day the grihastas are working hard like asses. Early in the morning they rise and travel 100 miles away to earn bread. Especially in the Western countries, I have seen that people awaken at 5 o'clock and go to offices and factories to earn their livelihood. People in Calcutta and Bombay also do this every day, and Bangalore too. Of course, not nowadays. Nowadays, everything is online. They work very hard in the office or factory, and again, they spend 3 or 4 hours in transportation returning home. Then they retire at 10 o'clock and again rise early in the morning to go to their offices and factories. This kind of hard labor is described in the Shastras as the life of pigs and stool eaters. Nayam deho dehabhajan triloki kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye. Of all the living entities who are accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form of life should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One must find some time for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This is Vedic culture. One should work 8 hours at the most to earn his livelihood, and either in the afternoon or in the evening, a householder should associate with devotees to hear about the incarnations of Krishna and his activities, and thus be gradually liberated from the clutches of Maya. However, instead of finding time to hear about Krishna, the householders, after working hard in the offices and factories, find time to go to a restaurant or to a club where instead of hearing about Krishna and his activities, they are very much pleased to hear about the political activities of demons and non-devotees, and to enjoy sex, wine, women, and meat, and in this way waste their time. This is not Grihastha life, but demoniac life. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, in its centers all over the world, gives such fallen and condemned person an opportunity to hear about Krishna. In a dream, we form a society of friendship and love, and when we awaken, we see that it has ceased to exist. Similarly, one's gross society, family, and love are also a dream, and this dream will be over as soon as one dies. Therefore, whether one is dreaming in a subtle way or a gross way, these dreams are all false and temporary. One's real business is to understand that one is soul, aham brahmasmi, and that his activities should therefore be different. Then one can be happy. Brahma bhutah prasanatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. One who is engaged in devotional service can very easily be liberated from the dream of materialistic life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation again. A grihastha must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and his incarnations, as these activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus one should gradually become detached from the affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Tarine Vanchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ajanulambita bhajokana kavadatu sankirtanayaka pitaro kamalaya taksha vishvambaro dvijavaro yugadharma palo. Vande jagat priya karo karunavatāra-janāvṛtaḥ pravishya. Mama vācim imam prasuptam sanjīvayāta kila shakti darak svadamna. Anyamsya hasta charana śṛṛvanāt vāgādim pranannamo bhagavate. Purushāya tobhyam. Svasyastu vishvasya kalah prasidatam. Dhyayantu bhutani shivam mithodhiya. Manascha badram bhajatā tadokṣaje. Aveshyatam no matir apyāyati. Hare Krishna. So I'm very happy to greet all of you and to meet all of you for this Sunday program. And the topic of today's lecture is very relevant for all of us. And ultimately, this topic, as everything else, is how to become happy in this world. How to become ultimately happy. This is the goal which every one of us has. We want to become happy. And whatever we do for this end, for this purpose. There is no other purpose. And Srimad Bhagavatam gives a very practical, but at the same time uncommon advice in this regard. The advice of Srimad Bhagavatam, or the concept of Srimad Bhagavatam, how to become happy, is radically different from the recipes of this material world. Usually we know what to do, what we are supposed to do to become happy. All these pictures of rosy, cozy, nice life is there in the advertisement boards. The problem is that it never happens in reality. It's only in the advertisement boards and in all these commercials and sometimes in the serials. But Srimad Bhagavatam gives the truth. He gives the true conception how to become happy. And therefore we should take utmost seriously this particular scripture. And this 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is beautifully describing in the beginning of the 7th canto how one can become happy despite all the problems in life. Sometimes we think that to become happy I need to have this and this and this and this and this and that, and the list is there in the pocket, and I'm coming here to the temple, and here, my Lord, is my list. And then I will serve you peacefully. Then only I will become happy. This is somehow or other the very common conception which every one of us has. To become happy, we need to have these many conditions. But Srimad Bhagavatam says this is a mistake. Even if you have everything which you wish to have, it doesn't mean that you will become happy. Not at all. This is first statement. And the second statement, it never becomes as you wish. Because even if it becomes as you wish, your wishes will grow simultaneously. So before you achieve this, you already wish something else. So it will never become like this. And on the contrary, it will become something completely different. This is the life. We have to gratefully accept that in this life nothing happens the way we wish. That's the truth. Sometimes it happens the way we wish, but it's rare exception, which only confirms the rule. The rule is that it's never the way we wish. It may be coming to this, but it's never exactly the way we wish. Why? Because there is somebody else who wishes the way it is. and his name is Krishna. His will rules supreme, not our will. Our will never become supreme here. So, and on the contrary, there will be some problems and impediments. It's a part of life. In everyone's life, there are some impediments. There is no exception to this rule. There is no exception to this rule. Everyone has to meet problems. If you study Jyotish, astrology, it's a very nice and sobering science. In astrology, most of the planets are inauspicious. And even auspicious planets, if they are placed in a certain position, they also become inauspicious. You know, you take Rahu, Ketu, and Mars, and then Shani, and then Sun, and they're all Krura grahas. They're all very bad. And then, you know, Mercury, you know, it's halfway. And then, yes, Jupiter is there, and then Moon, you know, if it's the Moon which is, how to say, waning or waxing, I never know which one, which is becoming less, it's inauspicious. So the only Jupiter is there, if it's nicely placed. Everything else is just bad. So all the planets which are there, they're just telling you, don't try to become happy in this world. No, you should try to become happy in this world, but not through the material means. And that's the important lesson of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, because in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see little boy Prahlad, who is meeting impossible difficulties in his life. May I ask you, who met a little fraction of the difficulties which Prahlad met in his life? From his father, who is supposed to protect him, he met such immense torture. So what was his reaction? Did he complain to Lord Nrisimhadev, dear Lord Nrisimhadev, why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? No, he was happy. So the very important message of Srimad Bhagavatam is that we should try to learn how to be happy independently on the external circumstances. Because the psychology which we all have, the wrong psychology which we all have, I can only become happy if the external situation is conducive for this, if the external situation are auspicious. But it's not true. The happiness is the condition of your heart. And you can become happy even if the external situations are not conducive for your happiness. And you can be completely miserable even if the external situations are favorable. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he was comparing this, he gave a very nice fable, a very nice story. He said that there was one man, and this man, his job, he was a Shudra, and his job was very hard one. He was carrying the boats while, against the stream, while walking on the bank of the river. The big boats with the, a lot of goods in them, and so the whole day he was walking, and while walking against the stream, working hard, sweating, under the sun, on the top of it, he was always, stepping on the very sharp stones. And the stones pricked his feet, and he was suffering immensely. The sun is burning from up, and the feet are burned, and he's just walking like this every day. So he had a dream. He had a dream not while he was sleeping, but while he was doing this job. He had a dream, how I can become happy. So his recipe for happiness would be, if at one day I will become very rich due to doing this hard job, then what I will do, I will get the pillows. And I put all these pillows along the bank of this river, and I will walk on these pillows. Is it a good dream? I will, in this way, I will get rid of the sufferings. But, the real thing is that you get the shoes, It's easier than to than to place the whole bank with this, nice, soft things. You just get shoes and, you're happy. So the moral of this fable, the idea of this fable is that of trying to change the external situation and make the external situation conducive for your happiness, which will never happen anyway, as much as this dream of this poor man will never be fulfilled. Instead of trying to change the external situation, try to change the internal situation. If you're trying to change the condition of your heart, you'll become happy in all circumstances. It's like having the shoes. One recipe is, if your feet hurt, you try to put carpets all over the place. Try to make all the Bangalore city covered with carpets and, go barefoot with the carpets. You'll become happy, for sure. No problem with the feet. But the same end could be achieved if you put shoes on. It's much easier. So put shoes on. Put the shoes of Krishna consciousness on your heart. And then the external situation will not hurt you to the same extent as they hurt you now. So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving this recipe, is explaining to us how to be protected from all the miseries of this world by becoming happy internally. And how we can become happy internally? By coming in contact with the happiest person in whole three worlds. Who is the happiest person in the whole world? Just look at him. He's here smiling at you. And he has big eyes because his enjoyment is so big that eyes also become big. And he's always smiling. So if you meditate on Krishna, if you really establish the contact with the happiest person of the world, you become happy. We all know when we come in contact with somebody who is happy, we also become a little happier. If we are morose, if we are sad, we come with somebody who is happy, like Patri Prabhu. Patri Prabhu, he's bubbling with happiness. He's just, it's just fountainhead of happiness. You come in contact with him, and even if you are morose, you become a little lighter in your mood, isn't it? Just because by coming in contact with him. So if in a real way we come in contact with Krishna, in a real way, not in an artificial way, but in a real way, as much as Prahlad. Prahlad, before he saw Nrisimhadev, he was always meditating on Krishna. And he was happy. He was Krishna Graha, as Srimad Bhagavatam in the 7th canto says. Krishna Graha means he was captured by this star of Krishna. As much as we are captured by this other grahas, Shani Graha, when Shani Graha grabs us, catches us, we become miserable. But Prahlad Maharaj, he was captured by this. This is a figurative description of what Krishna consciousness means. We're captured by this attachment to Krishna. And therefore, the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, coming back to our original topic, is describing how to become happy by becoming Krishna consciousness completely, 100%, 100%. And therefore, the example of Prahlad Maharaj is given. But at the same time, Prahlad Maharaj, in one sense, is an exception. Not many achieve such a high level of Krishna consciousness immediately, practically from the birth. And therefore, this example may seem to be not very practical. How can I imitate Prahlad Maharaj? I cannot imitate Prahlad Maharaj. And yes, I am what I am. So what to do in my practical life? So therefore, Narada Muni, after describing this story of Prahlad Maharaj, understanding that this is the highest ideal which is not to be imitated by us, fallen souls of this world, he also describes the gradual process how we can achieve this position. Ideally, if we are prepared for this, just by hearing once about Krishna, we'll achieve this level of Krishna consciousness. Or maybe not once, Prahlad Maharaj, he was hearing in the womb of his mother, Narada Muni, and he achieved this state. Just by hearing we can achieve. But at the same time we can see his mother didn't achieve the same state. We never heard that she has become a pure devotee of the Lord and she protected her son from Hiranyakashipu and, he put her also under severe sufferings. No. She was, she remained as she was, despite the fact that she was hearing from the same Narada Muni. Moreover, she was adult and she was much better equipped to understand the message of Narada Muni. Nevertheless, she didn't. Prahlad Maharaj did. So in one sense, it's an exception, and therefore we need to know the gradual process how to achieve this stage. We have been hearing about Krishna for a long time, but then when something bad happens to our life, we forget all about Krishna, and we come to Krishna and complain to Krishna and says, you are happy and I'm not. What's wrong with you? Why do you make me so unhappy? So we forget all this nice philosophy. Something happens to us, and this nice philosophy is just for Bhagavatam class, not for my practical life. This is what happens, unfortunately. And therefore, the gradual process has to be there. And this gradual process is described in the second part of the 7th canto, when we can gradually achieve the same thing. And this gradual process is called Varnashrama or Daivi Varnashrama. Narada Muni is not describing ordinary Varnashrama, because ordinary Varnashrama is a material arrangement. Ordinary Varnashrama is a very good material instrument to become happy in this world. What is Varnashrama? What is the essence of Varnashrama? The essence of Varnashrama is to create peaceful society. Because ashantasya kutah sukham, how you can become happy if you're not peaceful? There is no question of somebody who is not peaceful, and there is no question for him to become happy. So therefore, this society, Varnashrama society, it's a very, if it is executed, it's very peaceful society, whereas the society which we are living on, it's anything but peaceful. Sometimes people are very proud in the modern age. We have very advanced society, this society, that society. American people are very proud. I'm proud of America, my America. So see what happened in America. All these thousands, tens of thousands of people were storming the Capitol Hill. It means that they're not satisfied, they're not peaceful. And nobody is peaceful. In the modern society, nobody is peaceful. Nobody, except for a few brahmacharis who are not working in IT companies. It's a crazy social system. And moreover, the social system is designed in such a way to make you unhappy. Because if you are happy, the society, the economic system will not survive happy people. Happy people is the worst curse for the economic system, because for the economic system to survive, you have to be unhappy. And in this way, you will buy more and more useless goods. And this is the only way. Otherwise, if you are happy, why should you maintain this crazy economy, which produce complete crazy things? It's actually the whole society is designed to create unhappy people. This is what modern society is all about. This is what the modern social system is all about. Just to create unhappy people. So Varnashrama is a completely contrary system. It's a system which creates happy, satisfied people who will not who will not compulsively buy all this useless stuff in the supermarkets. It's a happy system. But Srimad Bhagavatam has no business for this material stuff. So why Srimad Bhagavatam is nevertheless Narada Muni, who is the Bhakti avatar of the Lord, why Narada Muni is describing this Varnashrama system? Because the Varnashrama system which Narada Muni is describing is not a material instrument. It's a material system, but as much as Prabhupada said, this microphone, even though it's material, when it's used for Krishna consciousness, it becomes spiritual. It becomes spiritualized. In the same way, Varnashrama system, if the purpose of Varnashrama system is to give Krishna consciousness ultimately, then this Varnashrama system is not material. It's a spiritual mechanism. So the Varnashrama system described in 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is the mechanism to bring you to Krishna consciousness, to instill Krishna consciousness within your life, and ultimately to make you happy. Ultimately, to bring you up to the level of Prahlad Maharaj. Does any one of you wants to reach the level of Prahlad Maharaj? You brahmacharis. Grihasthas are too concerned with their problems. So they don't need extra problems to becoming like Prahlad Maharaj. So this is a beautiful system, and Narada Muni, being asked by Maharaja Yudhishthira, is describing this, and he's describing first. He describes first the general duties of human being, then he describes the duties of brahmacharis, then he describes the duties of grihasthas, of vanaprasthas, then he describes the duties of sannyasis, ideal man, and then he stops. And Maharaja Yudhishthira is shocked completely. He's completely shocked. He mentioned, what kind of varnashrama it is, which only has three ashramas. Because Narada Muni, he just described this and that's it, And he says, this is how you can become liberated if you are brahmachari. This is how you should live the life of brahmachari. This is how you should become liberated by living the life of vanaprastha. This is how you become liberated by living the ideal life of a sannyasi. Maharaja Yudhishthira is completely shocked. And he becomes really humble. Actually, one of the purposes of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is to make you humble. Because while hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, you realize how fallen I am, how far I am from this ideal. Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is sometimes painful. Therefore, people sometimes don't like to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. They like to hear some nice stories, Nala and Damayanti or something, whatever. Some love stories, something good, Srimad Bhagavatam is some very bad lessons are always there. Become detached. What kind of book it is? So So Maharaj Yudhishthira, he became really humble. And, he's asking Narada Muni in the first verse of this adhyaya, of this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, grihasta etam padavim vidhina yena chanjasa yaya devarishe bruhi madrisho griha mudadhi. He says in a very humble mood, madrisho griha mudadhi, what to do, how we can achieve this padavim, this spiritual condition or spiritual world. How we, people like me, madrishaha, griha mudadhi, whose mind is completely bewildered or muddled. Mudha means muddled. The intelligence is preoccupied with all kinds of anxieties and concerns. Griha mudadhi. By living in this, we have so many anxieties. It's grihastha life. We all know it. It's a it's a difficult life. Brahmachari life is an easy life. They have their difficulties, but it's relatively easy and straightforward. Grihastha life has so many concerns, so many anxieties. It's there. And Maharaj Yudhishthira says, Madrisho griha mudadhi, how can I achieve this padavim? Grihastha etam padavim vidina yena chanjasa. In an easy way. Please tell me, what is the easy way to achieve the same stage? Don't tell me renounce the world. Don't tell me take sannyas. I'm not ready. Don't tell me take vanaprastha. Don't tell me, remain brahmachari. I'm a grihastha. Please be, humane. Understand my condition. I am what I am, and I'm not going to be anyone else. Don't push me into this. Tell me what I can do in this condition to also achieve liberation. So, our time is over. We should stop the class here. Anyway, I'll tell what we should do. And Narada Muni, he starts answering, understanding the concern which we should all have. What I should do to really become happy, even though I'm attached. I'm naturally attached. Grihastha is a very natural way of living life. So I am what I am. So how to change my condition in this situation? And Narada Muni, in the previous verse, he says, I will tell you, you should not only live for yourself. The first thing which he says, very important lesson for all grihasthas. We should not live for ourselves. Yes, we are what we are, we have this condition, but in this condition we should try to serve others. And ultimately, by serving others, we should try to serve God. Because God has given us everything. Didn't He? He gave us everything. He gave us whatever we have, whatever is within our position, our intelligence is there, our body is there, all the facilities which are there is given by God. So therefore, it's just a duty of a normal person who is somewhat, civilized, to be grateful. What is service? Service to God is just a little expression of our gratitude. We will never be able to serve God enough to repay the debt which we have. Because, so the first lesson is that we should not become only concerned with our own interest. We should try to serve. We should try to expand our consciousness by placing God in the center. I am His servant. It doesn't matter whether I am grihasta, brahmachari, sannyasi, whoever I am the servant of the Lord. I am dasa dasa anudasa, gopi bhartar pada kamalayar dasa dasa anudasa. I am the servant of 2 lotus feet of the Lord. And then he said, very important thing, how to satisfy Vasudeva in this life can be perfectly understood through the association of great devotees of the Lord. Vasudeva arpanam sakshat upasita mahamunim. Even if we want to serve the Lord, even if we want, and the service of the Lord, service or worship of the Lord, it's called upasana. What does it mean, upasana? Upasana literally means, if you translate from Sanskrit, it means to sit nearby. You can only worship somebody or you can only serve somebody if you're nearby. So the idea here is that if you want to worship the Lord, if you want to serve the Lord, you have to come close to Him. But how to become close to Him if we are separated from Him by the brick wall of our false ego? You know, we all know we're trying to chant Hare Krishna, and before the second Hare Krishna comes, the thought about my self-interest is just attacking my mind violently. Yes, Hare Krishna. Do I think about the Lord? Srila Prabhupada says, chanting Hare Krishna is the easiest way to remember about the Lord. Is it that easy? We chant about Krishna, but we remember about whom? Swartha, my own interest, my own egoistic concerns and everything. Hare Krishna, 16 rounds of what? Of thinking about ourselves only. So, and here it is said, Vasudeva arpitam. We should give everything to Vasudeva. At least we should give our mind to Vasudeva. No, we keep our mind to ourselves. And therefore it's not easy. And therefore, Narada Muni says, Vasudeva arpanam sakshat upasita mahamunim. To learn how to give our mind to Krishna, we should associate with other people, with wise people, with those people who are doing it, with those people who know, with the devotees. There is no way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Without association with devotees, we will never be able to think about Krishna. Without hearing the devotees, we will never be able to think about Krishna. Even if we read, we all know we read and our mind goes where? Somewhere else. And then we read and, what was it all about? The second time the same sentence, and before the end, the mind goes somewhere else. What is it? What Srila Prabhupada says? Hearing is the most important process. Because when you hear, something very significant is happening within your brain. Your brain changes its structure. Srila Jiva Goswami in his in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says, Shravana-dvara kinchit anubhuti sati. By hearing, you get little experience. It's not you can get experience by doing something if you really believe in something, but you can easily get, in much more easier way, you can get the experience, spiritual experience, direct spiritual experience, not by doing this, but by hearing. Kinchit, Shravana-dvara kinchit anubhuti sati. You don't get the full experience, but still you get experience. Did you have this experience? You hear about Krishna and you become happy. You just become happy, especially if you hear Patri Prabhu. You become, hearing somebody, you become bored. He speaks about Krishna and he's bored himself, and everyone else is bored, and everyone is sleeping. Krishna, very nice. Like Atma-tattva Prabhu, he had this joke, Nashta prayeshva bhadrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat. When you hear about Srimad Bhagavatam, Nashta prayeshva bhadrishu, almost everything which is disturbing to the heart is going away by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then when there is no anxieties, when everything disturbing going from the heart, then what you do? You sleep peacefully. That's why it's so common during the Bhagavatam classes. Nashta prayeshva, it's the proof. Nashta prayeshva bhadrishu, everything disturbing is gone. So I'm sleeping peacefully. But anyway, the point here is that when you hear kinchit anubhuti comes to your heart, you get some little experience. You get the experience of Krishna consciousness. It's not a mechanical process. It's a process of getting the real experience within your heart. And while getting this real experience within the heart, you will become enlivened. And therefore, in the next two verses which we read today, finally, that was introduction to my class. So we finally came to this two verses which we read. It is said very clearly, śṛṇvan bhagavato bhīkṣṇam, avatāra-kathāmṛtam, śṛaddanvato yathā-kālam, upaśānta-janāvṛtaḥ, sat-saṅgāc chanakaiḥ saṅgam, ātma-jāyātmajādiṣu, vimuñcen, mucyamāneṣu, svayaṁ, svapna-vat, utthitaḥ. So these two verses describe the gradual process, a very painless process, actually very joyful process of getting rid of the attachments. The problem when we hear about these attachments, that we should get rid of attachments, it's usually quite painful to hear. Because when we hear that I should get rid of the attachments, and we try to project ourselves on this state, we become sometimes hysterical. How I can live without attachments? The attachments is the source of happiness in my life. Whatever little happiness I have, it's all coming from attachments. Can you become happy if you're not attached to prasadam? I'm not attached, so what does it mean? We become little hysterical when we hear this, you should get rid of these attachments, and we think, how is it possible for me to become not attached? But Narada Muni specifically says here, chanakaiḥ. Gradually, it will happen to you without you even noticing it. And why? Because the attachments, the material attachments will be replaced by the spiritual attachments to the Lord, and you will become happy in the most natural way. Sometimes people think, bhakti means detachment, and they forcefully, violently, they try to cut off the bonds of attachment and, poor wife and children. They really cut off the, everything. And they become unhappy. Because it's an artificial process. Narada Muni says here, there is a very natural process to do it. And what is this process? śṛṇvan bhagavataḥ. You should hear about Bhagavan. How you should hear about Bhagavan? Abhīkṣṇam. Again and again and again and again. So the first point which Prabhupada makes here is that you come yathā-kālam according to your time. Prabhupada says every evening you should hear about Srimad Bhagavatam from devotees. Of course, it may not be possible, at least on Sunday. You come here to this temple. What is the purpose of your coming to this temple? The purpose of your coming to this temple is to rewire your brain. And there is no other way to rewire your brain. Here you will be brainwashed. Prabhupada was very, very boldly saying, yes, we're washing their brains because there is so much dirt is in the brains. And this is exactly what Maharaj Yudhishthira is saying when he says, Griha mudadhi. He says, my mind is muddled. There is a lot of dirt in my dhi, in my consciousness, in my mind. So how to get rid of this griha muda, this dirt which we accumulate in a natural way while living life, is just abhīkṣṇam, again and again and again. Come to the temple and hear about Krishna. And what is this hearing about Krishna? Kathāmṛtam. Bhagavata-kathāmṛtam. You're hearing something which gives you the idea of eternal life. You're changing your consciousness and you understand, I'm eternal, I will not die. Isn't it nice? That we are eternal, we are not dying. So we can get this experience that we are eternal soul, which is not dependent on the external circumstances, just by hearing about Krishna, just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam again and again and again, just by hearing Bhagavad Gita again and again and again. Why it is stressed that we should hear again and again and again? Because of the dirt which is accumulated within our mind, and therefore it doesn't go deep. You hear it once, you say, yeah, nice, very nice, very nice. And you go back to your home and you are the same. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. Sometimes people, they complain, even devotees complain, Prabhupada, why you always say we are not this body? Prabhupada said, because you don't understand this. You should repeat it again and again and again. It's not an easy thing to understand. It's an easy thing to repeat. You're not this body, I'm not this body, we're all not this body. But for how long this philosophy lasts? Only till the moment when you come in front of the mirror. You're in front of the mirror, where is all your philosophy? You become less philosophical all of a sudden. Just being in front of the mirror. I'm this body, and it's very deeply rooted. It's actually, this is the first sutra of the fourth pada of Brahma Sutra. The fourth pada of Brahma Sutra is called Pala. It's talking about the results, but the first sutra of Brahma Sutra is saying that you should repeat, it's avatāra-adhikarana. Avatāra-adhikarana. Avrita means avrita asakrit upadeshat. This is the sutra. Avrita asakrit upadeshat. The Shastra Upadesha. The Shastra always teach what? Avrita, to repeat the same thing again and again and again. Asakrit, not once. You shouldn't say, as Prabhupada says, you shouldn't say, I already read Bhagavad Gita, so that's done. Let me read some novels, love novel, because Bhagavad Gita is already done, it's put on the shelf. No, asakrit, avritam asakrita upadesha. Again and again and again you should read. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, commenting on this sutra, in this adhikarana of Brahma Sutra, he says, why we should repeat the activity? There are two reasons. First reason, the reason number one, because we want to get the result in this life. And because we want to get the result of this life, which result? The result of seeing Krishna, the result of experiencing Krishna, the result of becoming completely joyful and happy by being together with Krishna. That's one reason why we should again and again do it, because it's not something which we should get or we would like to get in the next life. If something you want to do in the next life, do it once, no problem. Next life it will bring some result. But if you want to do something in this life, if you want to get the result of this activity, you should do it again and again and again. Therefore we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, again and again and again. Sometimes people don't understand what's happening. Once somebody said, do you have another song? Why the same song? But this is Brahma Sutra, this is Upadeshat. Shastras say, do it again and again and again. There is another reason for this. And another reason is that because we have offenses. Because we are not doing it purely. If you would do it purely, once is enough. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You're there. But, to get rid, to counteract the offenses which are there, we have to repeat it again and again and again. And that's exactly what Narada Muni is saying here, because you understand that attachments are there. To gradually relieve you from attachments, you have to do it again and again and again. Abhīkṣṇam, as it is said here, avatāra-kathāmṛtam. Śraddadhāno. Śraddadhāno means you have to do it with utmost reverence, not casually, not neglectfully, not inattentively. The most important thing which may happen to you is happening now. When you hear about Krishna, when you hear this philosophy, when you hear these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, there is nothing more important. There is nothing more important. If you remember this at the moment of death, you will get liberation. You will be free from everything else. So therefore, yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajatante kalemaram taptame vaitikaunteya sadatat bhava bhavitaha. Whatever bhava you're trying to achieve in this life, sadatat bhava bhavitaha, you're trying to come to this state of consciousness, which is not easy, but we try again and again and again. Sada means yathā-kālam. Sada doesn't mean every moment of your life. Sada means regularly. This is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining. What does sada means? Sada means regularly. At the very least, every Sunday. You come to this temple and you free yourself from all your concerns. It is very beautifully said how you should do it. You should do it upaśānta-janāvṛtaḥ. You should put aside all your anxieties at home. You should leave them at home. Don't come with your anxieties here. There is a place for them there. Here is the place to hear about Krishna. Don't think about your business. Don't think about your problems. Don't think about this concern, this debt, this other debt. No, this is the time to hear. This is the place to hear about Krishna. And then together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. And then very easily you will be jumping. Usually brahmacharis, they're jumping because, there is not much burden on their shoulders. And grihastas, they're standing very seriously in the corner. Why? Because there is a lot of, weight attached. But if you put this aside very blissfully and peacefully, you're coming here, this is the peaceful place for very blissful activity, chant about the Lord, and then you jump also. It's very important because maybe, while you're jumping, some of the burdens will be somehow or other kicked away from your consciousness, from your heart. Prabhupada was insisting we should jump at least a little bit, just a little bit. As much as our consciousness or our heart allows to do this. So this is the advice, sat-saṅgāc, chanakaiḥ saṅgam, ātma-jāyātmajādiṣu, vimuñcen. We will be gradually, chanakaiḥ. Gradually means in a slow manner, but in a very painless manner. Because when again we do it violently, when we do it with a lot of force, we're kind of forcing, it just only creates misery in your mind. You do it because of your false ego, because of your false conception. I am very renounced. I don't need all this stuff. No, you need it. And therefore you're saying about this, I don't need. When somebody is saying this or declaring it very boldly or behaving in such a way that everyone sees that he's detached, it's actually, he betrays himself. He says that it's just a sure sign of attachment. He is attached. So that's not a question. The question is to come here in a very natural, spontaneous way to hear about Krishna, to contribute something to this temple. Once Ambarish Prabhu very beautifully said something. He said, Ambarish Prabhu, he is the grandson of Henry Ford. It's very rich, business-oriented people, business-oriented family. He said, I'm very grateful to my ancestors because my ancestors, they're all great businessmen. And all my relatives are great businessmen. So I learned one little secret from them. He said, I learned that wherever you invest your money, you will think about this. If you invest your money in the cars, you will always be thinking about cars. What's happening with the cars, what is going with the car business, how the sales of the cars going. Wherever you invest your money, you will think about this. So I learned this secret, and now I know how to think about Krishna. I invest my money into Krishna. Because I invest my money into Krishna, I always think about Krishna. Because I help Prabhupada's mission, I always think about Prabhupada and his mission. So this is the secret which I learned from Ambarish Prabhu, and he knows what he's saying about. So you can, ultimately, this is the essence of all the teachings of the Vedas. Manmana, think about Krishna. How to think about Krishna? Just hear about Krishna. Just come to this temple. Just chant his holy name. Just read Srimad Bhagavatam and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And then invest your money and your time. If you don't have money, no problem. Your time is there. You always have some little time in the service. You can do it. And in this way, as Narada Muni says here, you will, at one point, you will be just like a man who woke up from the dream and he says, oh yeah, I'm in a different world. Krishna is there, he is dancing, and he is inviting me to dance, and his friends are there, they're chanting, and they're also dancing. And I also learned to dance somewhere in the South Bangalore. How to dance for Krishna, and how to chant for Krishna, and how to glorify Krishna, and how to hear about Krishna. Abhīkṣṇam. And in the spiritual world, abhīkṣṇam, every moment of our life will be devoted to this Krishna consciousness. So this gradual transition is there. And this temple is here, and Srila Prabhupada is very proudly says, don't complicate it. This is what this temple is all about. This is the place for hearing about Krishna, for speaking about Krishna, for chanting about Krishna, for eating prasadam. Prabhupada says this is very important. By hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, one must be purified, especially if he also takes prasada. So Prabhupada, he puts some additional strength to this. Especially if you take prasada, then hearing about Bhagavad Gita will be very, very useful, and you will digest whatever you heard. So this is the place. You're welcome. Here I am talking about Krishna, and if I would not be talking about Krishna, I would probably be doing something on the internet, and God knows what it is. So let's do something about Krishna, and let's change our brain and our heart. And in this way, in a very natural and happy way, we will be liberated from all these problems and anxieties, and go to Vaikuntha, the place where there is no anxieties. So, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Just the one. There is something.
Anybody has any one question? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the wonderful class knowledge. This question is always ringing in my mind. How to get detached from attachment to money and wealth?
From money and what? Wealth? Well, Narada Muni gives this advice. He will give this advice in the 15th chapter. He said, by giving donations, you get rid of attachments to money. Again, it's a gradual process, but it's a very important part of the spiritual culture. The spiritual culture is, you give. And yes, in the heart we think, but still we give, and we feel some happiness. We feel, happy by giving this, and we feel some relief, this is how we should do it. We should counteract different anarthas which are there by doing something which is contrary to this, and by experiencing the happiness which comes from this. It's not just doing this, but if we do it, and do it in a very nice way, with nice kind of attitude, and then we should hear the heart. And the heart, Krishna in the heart will be joyful. Krishna will be dancing in the heart. I'm regularly now associating, because of some service, with Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. And Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, he has one saying all the time, when something is successfully resolved, he said, happy dancing, happy dancing, happy dancing. So Krishna will be dancing in your heart, and if you are attentive enough, you will get this anubhav, this happiness. And then you will understand, oh, this is nice. I gave this to the temple, and this is something which is good. Of course, in the Vedas it is said, if you give something, to Brahmana, you will get 1,000 times return, or 10,000 times, or whatever. If you give something to transcendental cause, you will get unlimited return. So, anyway, this calculation is there. But ultimately, the happiness which is there in the heart is, you do something good and you're happy. So just do it.
He made a big commitment yesterday.
Did you sleep nicely at night? Okay, so that's what should be. Thank you very much. It's very important. Yeah.
That's the source of misery I feel, Maharaj. Every grasa is holding on.
Yeah.
Once I just asked somebody that they said you should not see what you are giving, Krishna see what you are holding.
Yeah. So Badrinarayan Maharaj, he has a beautiful story to tell. I will tell his story. He said he was a college student, that he started coming to Hare Krishna temple. And of course, the main attraction was prasadam. So he was taking this Sunday feast prasadam happily as a student. And, while leaving the temple room, he would calculatingly putting his hand into pocket and taking some little coins to give, because at the entrance of the temple room after prasadam there would be somebody with a tray, and he was supposed to give some little donation. So calculatedly he would put his hand into the pocket and would try to find something which is not difficult to part with. A few coins to put. So, and once after the Sunday feast program, after eating sumptuously, he again this by this reason, and the little boy was standing there, Prahlad, in the temple. This Prahlad is famous. There is a picture when Prabhupada is teaching him how to write. This little devotee boy, shaven head, and he put, and he gave few coins while leaving. And this Prahlad looked at him and says, Krishna sees what you left for yourself, not what you gave. And he was shocked. And then he thought for himself, if the little boy is so intelligent, how intelligent must be the other ones? I should probably join this. This is how he became. So you wanted to ask us a question?
You said Maharaj, you said we have to read Srimad Bhagavatam again and again. Somebody told me that there's a lotus in the heart which will open out. That's why we feel happy when Krishna is there.
Yeah, that's the law. The heart is like lotus. It is compared with the lotus. The consciousness is like lotus. And when we feel sad, this lotus of the heart kind of, is closed. And when we do something good, something spiritual, then the heart will blossom. And the more it is expanding, the more happy we feel. And therefore, when we feel happy, we want to embrace everyone. Of course, during pandemic, it's not probably very advisable, but we want to share it with everyone because the heart is expanded. Whereas when we're miserable, we just become really closed. So yes, it's true. If you do something for Krishna, Krishna is happy, he is dancing, the lotus of the heart is expanding, and you feel naturally happy.
And Lord Krishna lifted that golden hill by his fingertip. And Hanuman carried the mountain on his palm. So it's a scientist will understand it is a high order lower there. There's so many details like that. So where is all these details given from? Is it given in the Srimad Bhagavatam?
In different places, this thing about expansion of consciousness and distracting of consciousness, at least Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining this process in Jaiva Dharma. The process of expansion of the consciousness, and all these little details that are there in Ramayana also. In Srimad Bhagavatam, so many beautiful details are there. Just read it again and again and again. That's the point. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki jai, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Deva ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Gaur